Good evening, and good evening to one and all, and to our guests who are here in Milan and those who are in Miami. And we'll have this nice overview of Italian spumante wines. So that's a very interesting topic. And we have four glasses, very different. And we'll start from Marche with a Verdicchio, sparkling Verdicchio spumante, then a Metodo Classico from an area which is a bit unusual for a Metodo Classico, and then two Franciacorta. One Satin vintage and a Riserva Pas Dosé. So two particular styles of Franciacorta. So let me start without any further ado. Let me immediately tell you about the first winery. We are in Marche, and the winery is Tenuta Tavignano. That is in the province of Macerata, in a village called Cingoli. And you can also see on the tables you have a brochure. And this is so they make somewhat special wines in the sense that they have moods. So they're based on moods. Also, the bottles have these faces that are intended to express different moods, and they are very rock and roll wines, and they were all even given names to convey the idea of these characters. So tonight we will taste the pestifero, which is a person who is obnoxious, but actually you have to get to know it and then you'll like it a lot. So I immediately invite Giulia to join me here, and she's going to tell us more. And I also would like to profit from for thanking all the sommelier who served the wines. This is a Verdicchio with a residue. So this is the face I mentioned on the label, and you can also see it when you turn it upside down, because since it has a residue you have to turn it upside down and we will serve it with this residue, and so you see it changes its face. So that's why we say it's a bit pestiferous, a bit obnoxious. So my name is Giulia. I am the sales manager at Tenute di Tavignano. And tonight I'd like to tell you more about our line called I Love Monsters, and the pestifero in particular. Tenute di Tavignano is in Cingoli, in the province of Macerata, close to Iesi, in the heart of the Castelli di Iesi DOC appellation. We mainly make Verdicchio Castelli di Iesi on the stainless steel, so we just use stainless steel, and we are ambassadors of the Verdicchio grapes. And then we have this collection, this line for young people, these wines that we have decided to make for young people, and also because we wanted to have something unconventional, something innovative. And this line was designed and developed by Mrs. Melinda Lafelt, who is part of the Aymeric Lucangeli family that founded the winery. So she comes from the design world. She's an architect and a designer. And when she joined the company, she wanted to introduce something innovative and bring the world of design in the world of wine. And actually, she designed these labels, and she also asked some design students to design these labels so as to give some personality, some more personality to these wines. These wines are like characters, and they stand for specific moods or lifestyles, ways of being. And so she developed this very fun line also to stand out from the crowd and do something unusual. So this is pestifero, who is the protagonist of our light. It's a pet nut with verdicchio 70%, also with Sangiovese and then Malvasia. And each variety confers a different character to this wine. So Verdicchio has a structure, body, Malvasia the aromas, and so it's a very flavorful wine. And it's a Petit Naturel wine, so it's bottled right before the end of fermentation, which then continues in the bottle to then to achieve a pressure of 2 bars. So the perlage, the bubbles are very fine. So actually it's a sparkling wine. It's not a real spumante. So we don't degorge, and that's why we keep the residue and the crown cap. So it's a bit turbid. It's a bit clouded. And so these labels with the faces of 3 monsters is also intended to, for instance, turbidity, which is a monster, but actually in this case it's a distinctive feature of this wine, and so because these wines are genuine wines. Very well, thank you, Giulia. Very well. Let's taste this, let's call it sparkling verdicchio. So I correct myself, it's not spumante. So it has the residue and is 70% verdicchio. So we immediately recognize the typical note of verdicchio, the herbaceous note. And there are also floral notes and citrusy notes. On the palate, thanks to this characteristic of having the residue, you'll find a more, let's say, softer texture, more round texture. And so the bubbles are very gentle, and the body results from this creamy texture. So I would say it's actually creamy because of this very distinctive feature. And the more you taste it, the more it changes. So that's why it's called pestiferous, obnoxious, because it can, give us different impressions as we taste it over time. And so maybe at the end or later on, if you taste it again, you can have a different impression, different from what you first thought about it. Are there any questions about this wine, about this line? Because we can profit. We have Giulia here. She can answer questions. And in any case, this is a verdicchio, sparkling verdicchio that, so as you know, verdicchio can have different styles. So we have young, easy drinking verdicchio that has an aging potential, and then this one that is called spumante, verdicchio spumante. So there are no questions, if I'm not wrong. So you can taste again this glass later on. And we can continue. Many thanks, Giulia, and many thanks to Tenute Tavignano. And Confagricoltura too, that enables us to get to know these small-scale producers, these pearls of wineries that are very plentiful in Italy. Let's now move to Cobue, another winery. They make a Metodo Classico Spumante that is very ambitious because it's a Blanc de Blanc outside the original territory, because we are in the area of Lower Garda in the village of Pozzolengo, and This is a wine that the grandpa of Gilberto was very fond for champagnes and decided to make his own, so to speak, champagne. Please, Gilberto, come and tell us more about your family and this nice wine. Thank you to you and to our friends in Miami. And after me, there are two Metodo Classico from Franciacorta, and I feel it's a humbling experience for me. Don't worry, don't worry. They are all Chardonnay. Don't worry, don't worry. Because, thing is that if you know the Lower Garda, in our area, actually, it's not a typical wine, a Metodo Classico. So in the Lugana DOC, there is a Metodo Classico, but Lugana is not. So we are between Franciacorta, that is 30 kilometers away, and Trento Doc, 70 kilometers. We are squeezed in between. But my grandpa in the 1980s, very far-sighted man, was very fond of French champagne, of course, and he planted 3 hectares for himself, which is not bad, to make his own champagne. And then in 1991, I am the third generation. The company was founded 50 years ago. I was 23 in 91. And so I saw my grandpa was doing this. I would say, well, what the hell is he doing? He was doing the remuage and all this kind of tirage and so on. And he released his first Brut bottle with some dosage because he loved the Blanc. Then over the years, of course, the palate, the market has changed. And as I said, we are the third generation. And so also the market, prefers less sweet wines. Perhaps it's not good to say sweet, maybe it's with less sugar, with less dose. And so we decided to make a pas d'oser. So with the same vineyard of our grandpa, with Chardonnay, we started to make the pas d'oser, so with no added sugar. And the wine that we are going to taste is called Zero. Actually, it's a pas d'oser. Pas d'oser, dosage zero. This is 2017, was disgorged March this year, 36 months on the yeasts. And we try to make these wines. I hope that it will be appreciated, and I think it's a pas d'oser with some softness, and this is the result of our know-how. After 30 years, we make a Metodo Classico. So especially during the tirage, that's a very important step that we think we manage very well. Then if you have a good base, so Chardonnay gives good elegance, and therefore I think that on the palate, but then you will tell me, or Stefania will tell us, because she is very knowledgeable, and she will probably perceive the elegance and yes, Gilberto, don't worry at all. So you will be up to the same level of the Franciacorta spumante. So don't worry. Yes, this body is very balanced, and so we don't think that there is no added sugar. And by the way, this is called vino spumante di qualità, so because actually this is not typical of our area. And so it's just their wine. And so there's no denomination for this, but they keep doing it because for the passion of this and also the experience that they've gained over these 30 years. Thank you. Thank you. And also in the previous masterclass, I was saying that the goal here is not just to compare and contrast these wines. But on the contrary, I'd like you to appreciate the distinctive features and uniqueness of each glass and of the territory it comes from, or of the stories behind these wines. But let's take a look at it. So 36 months, you said, 36 months. Then we have this nice golden color. And at least in my glass, there are still some bubbles, very fine perlage, very pleasant. Then on the nose, we have the typical floral citrusy notes of Chardonnay, and also good minerality on the nose, and some nice secondary notes, such as spicy, some vanilla notes. Do you agree? Do you want to add anything? So I see that you are very much focused on the nose of this glass. And feel free to make any comment. And very well. So Gilberto probably made you curious, so you have almost drunk the entire glass of his wine. And so you can see that it's full, has a nice full mouthfeel, roundness, elegance of the bubbles that are very, very silky. And of course, so without an overpowering acidity, because it's still very fresh, well balanced with these aromatic notes. And here we perceive all the structure and the potential of Chardonnay here. As we've said earlier on, this is a type of metodo classico that can age well. So if you like tertiary bubbles with tertiary notes, this is certainly a Chardonnay, or better, a Blanc de Blanc in particular, that can last well over time. Our assumption is 10 years. And Gilberto said actually he's now tasting 2007 bottles that are still in very good shape. And so this is wine that you have to keep under your radar to mark the name. Feel free to ask any questions if you have questions for Gilberto or comments about this particular wine, this particular spumante. Yes, there's a question. Wait, let me give you the microphone so that we can all hear what you say. Here you are. Well, it's excellent. Oh, okay, clear. It's a really champagne style, really reminiscent of champagne. I have a technical question, because in Italy, in addition to spumante makers from Franciacorta, Trentino, and Alta Langa, that is not very well known, but where do you sell? Where are you present? So my curiosity is, where do you sell? Do you sell in the neighborhoods, or do you sell in Italy, abroad? Where's your market? Because I don't work in the wine business, but I am an economist. Okay, clear. And so Gilberto, where do you sell this wine, which, as you said, is always out of stock? Yes, that's a nice question, very practical, because we talk a lot about wines, but then in the end we have to sell them. And of course, abroad, I have to be honest, we sell very little Cobue. I mean, we sell other wines, but not Metodo Classico. Because in many countries, there are tariffs that are very high, and duties that are very high on the cage and on the mushroom cork. So since we make 100,000 bottles, and Metodo Classico is 17%. And this one is 8,000 bottles of Zero of Padosé. We sell a lot to private individuals on the Arca Lake, bars, restaurants on the Garda Lake, and then we have some small wholesalers, something in northern Italy, something in central Italy, who buy this. Certainly, this is the one that is maybe more sellable, more easy to understand. But abroad, I have to be honest, it's much harder to sell because the competition of Prosecco, sorry to say, because abroad, I don't know if you know, can I say something? When we do these tastings, you have nice wines, maybe 60 months on so you keep your wines 60 months on your yeasts, but then people ask for Prosecco. So all over the world, people think that bubbles are Prosecco. But other than this, other than Prosecco, and also Franciacorta, it's hard also for Franciacorta to be successful abroad, apart from great names, and then Trento DOC, which is doing pretty well because of the tradition that is more so with a long-lasting culture. But of course, for abroad, our Metodo Classico finds it a bit hard to be sold. Well, Gilberto, I'm sure our friends in Chicago and Miami appreciated it, and you will have to make some more bottles for the foreign market, I'm sure, Gilberto. And I hope that this event will help you open up new opportunities for you in other countries. Any other additional questions for Gilberto? Yes, one more question. Good evening. I would like what would be the ideal pairing for you? Well, if you ask me a question that I'm very talkative, nice question. So you asked me what it would be the pairing. For the Brut label, I wrote, Hemingway said, I like literature, I like Hemingway. So it's better to eat with Brut so that you don't have to change wine for every course. So this means that a Metodo Classico that is well made is good for any course, any dish. So this is certainly good for all, the entire meal, meat, fish. Then if you want to find a specific dish, I would say raw fish and also raw shellfish or seafood. Yes, perhaps we said that earlier, but we haven't repeated it now. Yes, true, you're right. It's good for the entire meal. So it's good for multiple pairings, risotto, aperitifs, pasta, then also fish dishes, meat. Thank you for the question. So that we also said something about pairings. Are there any additional questions for Gilberto? More questions for Gilberto? He's ready to go. If you have questions, I don't know if you have questions, maybe from the US? No questions from the US. Well, never mind, don't worry. In case Gilberto is here, and in case you have anything else to ask, and the same is true for Julia, who is still here with us, so you can ask questions at the end of the masterclass. And here they are. So at the end of the masterclass, if you like, you can ask questions. And in any case, the winemakers are here ready to answer. So I hope you are appreciating the wines in Miami. So now let's move from this Chardonnay and we go over to Franciacorta with Cooperativa Vitivinicola Cellatica that originally is a cooperative winery for red wines, but little by little they changed their production. They started making Franciacorta because they are in the municipality of Gussago, then in the appellation of Franciacorta. And so they decided so to move from the typical tradition of Cellatica, so a lot of red wines. Then they decided to make Franciacorta. And we should have a the president of the cooperative, Mauro Tognoli, and Marco. Here they are. Good evening. So here we are. So first of all, I'd like to thank Confagricoltura for this opportunity to participate in this masterclass tonight. I would like to start with a very short presentation. Yes, I said just very little, just to introduce you. So certainly, you can tell us more. Unfortunately, we got disconnected, and so we couldn't hear what you said. We're sorry, but now we have another PC. So we have a small cooperative winery that was founded in 1952. And this is, so we have small scale producers. Our vineyards are mainly in Cellatica and Cussago, these two municipalities, and we make about 150 to 200,000 bottles. We make red wines, Rossi DOC, and Franciacorta wines. In 79, we were amongst the first to plant Franciacorta, to replant our vineyards with Franciacorta. And now our wines have become pretty popular. We were also given some awards. And so we have a lot of demand. And actually, we are working more and more with this product. We are supported by expert enologists. And another important factor for our vineyards is the presence of our technicians and agronomists who take care of our vineyards and then help us with our wines. We are in the Consorzio Franciacorta. We are one of the first members. And of course, we comply with the Disciplinare, the rule book. Having said that, well, actually, we renovated also the structure of our cooperative from the operational standpoint. I mean, now we mainly have young winemakers, so young people. And so we have some young people who take care of marketing and sales, but also we have some graduates in viticulture and enology for our cellar. And so we decided to have young people so that we can have, we can become innovative. And yes, we can talk with Marco. And actually, because you said that this intention to keep renovating your styles is also reflected in the new graphics and the new communication initiatives that you have undertaken. So you have a new label, and you have so you pay more attention to communication, as you said, for the reason you just said, right? Yes, true. Let's say that, however, our priority is quality of our wines. So that's our first and foremost priority. We don't make big productions, so big, but certainly quality is key for us. And then, so we, of course, we have reinterpreted the way we present our wines. So now I have our young winemakers, and I'd like to leave the floor to them. Yes, I see Marco, and Damien. Am I right? Yes, yes. Good evening. Very well. So let's hear from them more about these wines. And they have chosen two flagship products. So Franciacorta Satin, the 2013 vintage, and Riserva Pas d'Osé 2013. So two products which are two top quality products of this winery with some distinctive features that I invite you to describe. Yes, they have some distinctive features and common features. Because we use only Chardonnay wines, so we don't use Pinot, so no Pinot, just Chardonnay. And as the president said, we have wineries, members who are in various areas of Franciacorta, which is quite large region. And they go from Lago di Iseo, the Iseo Lake, that's a damp area, more humid area, and then the hills. And so we can select Chardonnay from different terroirs. So in the cooperative, you have members from various in various areas in Franciacorta. Yes, and this helps us make a wine that is very enjoyable. So this is wine. For instance, for Riserva, we have a neutral liquor that doesn't influence the taste of wine. And you disgorged it in 2020. Yes, so one is June, for Riserva is June, and October for the vintage one. And as the president said, we comply with the Franciacorta rule book, but we for instance, we keep Riserva 65 months on the yeasts, so we keep it there a little longer so that quality is higher. And we tend to release the market tends to release the products as soon as possible. On the contrary, we try to give time to our wines so that they can express their personality. So the consortium was founded initially, they didn't make Franciacorta, but certainly Metodo Classico was already something that was used. And of course, it depends on the year and on the characteristics of the wines. Yes, and depending on the year, you have different weather conditions. And since we have a large area, we have the possibility of having, we cannot say that there are different microclimates, but the area of Franciacorta is so different and so large that you can have different characteristics. So there are different exposures and different locations within the district, the Franciacorta district. And in particular, 2013, was it a usual year? Was it different? Well, the Riserva has a very, it evolves a lot after you taste it. So it has a nice evolution, and it has some elements that, because here in Brescia, so our wines have a very nice asperity, and this is so we try to not to use particular chemicals, and so we try to use selected yeasts. And so we rely on our tradition, but we always try to be innovative. Franciacorta is world known, like champagne. Well, actually, we have a question later on that we were wondering about Franciacorta. There was something that we were discussing, and maybe later on we'll ask you a question about that. Well, we want to keep our personality, so we don't want to get lost just trying to please the market. Want to keep your authenticity, even though the Franciacorta is more and more in demand, not just in Italy, but also worldwide. And so this is one of the reasons why we are here. This is to say, to try to be able to be appreciated by our friends who are, for instance, in Miami tonight. And this is a satin also. Yes, exactly. And satin has an even finer perlage and bubbles. Satin comes from silk. And this is the result of different bars, so different. Yes, our satin, unlike other Franciacorta, is made by crushing only, by pressing only white grapes. So. And we keep it in stainless steel vats and controlled temperature. And we give this creaminess, different from other Franciacorta, which is which is because we add sugar. And our vintage wine, as Damien said, is made with 100% Chardonnay, so only Chardonnay. And it spends 45 months on the yeasts. We can also say that it has this straw yellow, nice straw yellow color, and has very lingering, persistent perlage. And it's also almost golden yellow, because here in the glass the color is pretty intense and bright. And the first wine you see, Satin, is Brut, whereas the other is a Pas d'Oser. And as far as our aromas of the vintage wine has notes of vanilla, custard cream, and bread crust, and also some toasty and spicy notes. Yes, a lot of secondary flavors. We'll see that. So it's very much focused on secondary notes, given it spends a long time on the yeasts. And could make a comparison and say that the vintage wine, our vintage wine, can be also appreciated by people who don't know Franciacorta or not familiar with it. Certainly, Riserva has a more sophisticated taste and more complex to sell, but for connoisseurs, it's something extraordinary. So it's something that a connoisseur was looking for but couldn't find. I have a question. How is Franciacorta seen in foreign markets? And foreign markets, do you and also do you have importers, or are you still trying to find some opportunities? So what? Because before we were wondering about Franciacorta. So how is Franciacorta seen abroad? And so, what are your? So, what do you expect to see abroad? Maybe the States. Well, at the moment, we have started some discussions because before, earlier, they were mainly, these wines were sold in the province of Brescia, so locally. We've tried to go out of our province and try to sell in Italy, across Italy, but we also would like to move also to foreign markets. So that's why we're very happy to participate in this event, because we are trying to serve also foreign markets. First of all, our main concern was to make, first of all, top quality products and have a nice bottle, nice label before venturing outside Italy and go to foreign markets. So because we have a pretty limited production, but we are trying to expand and grow. And so we are planting more Chardonnay vineyards to make more Franciacorta. But this takes time, of course, because for new vines, well, I mean, you have to plant them, then it takes 3 years before you can harvest. And for instance, the base wine spends 2 years on the yeast, then it takes at least 5 years because we can actually increase production. And what do you think? What is your perception? Do you see a demand for Franciacorta abroad or not? Yes, yes, yes. We have a lot of demand from foreign countries, and we are trying to get organized. So now we are trying to make people become familiar with our wine. We want to know whether it's appreciated and enjoyed also abroad. So maybe we'll hear whether there are any feedbacks from our friends in Miami so that you can understand whether they like it, it's in line, consistent with what they've tasted. And the mission of our cooperative is also a non-profit mission, because we are a cooperative winery. So because we have to, of course, to remunerate our members with using their grapes, of course. And so that's why we make a top quality product at a price which is a unique price. Sorry, can you repeat what you said, Marco? Yes, so we are a cooperative winery, and so we can afford charging a unique price compared to other wineries. So we are a cooperative winery, so our goal is not profit. So we want to make high quality products, and so the members, the farmers who grow the grapes, and since we want them to keep growing the grapes for us, they must be remunerated. So we want to make our wines and be proud of them. So quality first, and then and a lot of pride in your product. If you have nothing else to add, perhaps we can ask our participants to take a sip so that we can taste what you're offering. Yes, yes, we are eager to hear from you. So please taste the wines and give them a feedback. So let's start with the Satin then. And on the nose, we can immediately perceive these secondary notes. So very much notes of yeast and bread crust, and then sweet vanilla notes. And then we taste, as I said before, we can see this nice golden yellow color. And also on the palate, we have these fine bubbles, very elegant, nice texture. And so here we have the signature of Chardonnay, then the presence of this varietal in the glass. and also this softness of the satin style. So there's this actually a difference in the bubbles. And also on the palate, we have this nice persistence with secondary flavors that all revolve around yeast and aging and butter, yogurt, bread crust, and you can tell that they are aged for quite a few years. This is the Brut, and let's now taste the Padosé. So the nose is more intense and even more related to secondary aromas, so warmer notes, and also the color is more intense than the previous one. And also we have a nice minerality and notes of citrus fruits, but citrus fruits like say orange peel or candied orange peel. Then different fruit that is dry like candied fruit and also sweet fruit, and still these strong secondary elements. And also let's taste this and let's also notice the difference of the different dosage. So it's always full and round, but much more straight. So you can move to another, to the other glass. So we can definitely perceive the impact of Chardonnay and the aging on the yeasts in both of them, but with the difference that I mentioned. So in the Padosé we have this minerality, candied fruits, more intensity. And these are both wines, please confirm, that can be paired with an entire meal. I don't know if you followed the previous presentation. There was another Chardonnay that we thought it can be good for an entire meal. And the same is true for your wines, with this full, with this mouthfeel, creamy texture that lend themselves to be paired with many different dishes. Yes, we confirm, we confirm. And is there anything in particular that you would suggest in terms of pairings? Well, the taste of Riserva, in particular Riserva, but also the other wine, the vintage wine, tends to be enhanced, for instance, fish or caviar or lake fish. I think that this can add a more mineral note that is quite special, like the brook trout. And yes, this wine is great for an aperitif, but also it can go well with a Grana Padano, also let's say pungent dishes. And it's nice because the microclimate of the mouth can change with these interesting pairings. For instance, with Grana Padano, certainly the aromatic persistence is the same of Grana Padano and this wine, and also this Sant'Aniele ham, raw ham. But please, let's give some feedbacks. So since they cherish quality so much. And they talked about this product, and every day they work hard to make this high quality product. So let's give them some feedback. Let's give them an opinion about what they have done. Because as they said, they've said, we are eager to know your impressions. So let's see whether you have a question or a comment. And in the meantime, I also wait for question from Miami. If you like, you can tell me whether they have questions. Also, simply a feedback, not necessarily a question. Or in any case, if you have questions about these two wonderful Franciacorta, feel free to ask. I were at the Franciacorta festival, and so you're an expert. Well, let's say that I have been an expert for quite some time. So I have this question. So we had a brut and a pas d'oser. What about an extra brut? Have you thought of making an extra brut? Because I've seen recently that many of your competitors or colleagues, let's say, started making extra brut. And I think that the grapes in Franciacorta is perfect for extra brut. Oh, yes, they also make other products, but we'll hear from them. So they also make other styles of Franciacorta. I don't remember if you make extra brut. Please tell us more. Well, in addition to the vintage Riserva, we make two more products, a Brut and a Satin, but we don't make extra Brut. We don't. So these products are always made with Chardonnay only, and they have different characteristics compared to the vintage wine and the Riserva wine, because Satin has these floral notes, and Brut, well, for instance, we paired it with Grana cheese, and the pairing turned out to be great, gorgeous, because it has these notes that is perfect to enhance the taste and the flavors also of more savory dishes. There's another question for you, Marco. They're asking from Miami, what's the price range of these two wines? So what is the price range for the Brut vintage Brut and the Riserva? Well, the vintage is 16 euros, and then Riserva is 20 euros. So you mean at the winery? Yes, at the winery. So 16 euros for Satin, vintage Satin. And what about the Pas d'Oser? 20 euros. 20 euros for Pas d'Oser at the cellar, at the winery. And always remember that we are a cooperative winery, otherwise we would charge much more. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I don't know. Before I think you were saying something. I think I interrupted you, Damian, because the gentleman asked about the extra brut. So back to the other question. So we make the base brut, and as far as we can, we try to age our bottles as long as possible, because we firmly believe that the product is a great product. Then the market also, of course, requires bottles released after 3 years. And so we do that, but we don't make a lot of brut. We try to focus more on Satin, vintage, and Riserva. And we hope, if the president agrees, to start also the Rosé Franciacorta. Okay. So also with some Pinot Noir. Well, yes, we have already planted some Pinot Noir, actually. Well, in a year, if the president agrees to make Pinot, and then see whether to start with rosé. So, of course, after some tests and experiments. Okay, so you say you're not going to make an extra group, but probably you might make a Pinot Noir, so make so with a different expression of Franciacorta, so with a rosé Franciacorta that has become very popular over the last few years. And it's a challenge also for us because we only use Chardonnay, and it's also a challenge for us to grow and use Pinot Noir. Of course, to create a new line that can meet these requests, this demand for rosé wines. Yes, that's a good idea. We'll follow you up and see what the evolution is going to be. Are there any additional questions? Questions? Yes, I have a question. I would like to know if these two wines have already been imported in the US. No. They said that they have not yet imported Chardonnay because they are still focusing on enhancing their quality. But now they think they are ready. They are ready to send samples, and they would like to go to this market and so find new importers and find new opportunities. Am I right? Yes, well, at the moment, we want to find foreign partners. We don't have a big production, and so we cannot have hundreds of foreign partners. But you mean you don't make many bottles? Yes, that's what I meant. Also, so we would like to find, yes, some partners on foreign markets with whom to establish a good relationship, understand their markets, and try to make them happy. Okay, very clear, very clear. Have you got any additional questions from the room here? I think there is another question. No, it was more some appreciation from Miami. So they say it's all fantastic and that the tasting is great. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you receive compliments. So I'm pleased for you and for the other winemakers. So I'm happy that your wines have been appreciated also from our friends overseas. Is there anything else that you want to ask or say or comment? So you are sparkling. You look like sparkling now. Maybe the bubbles. It's because of the bubbles that you drank. Anything else? Okay, no more questions. Then let's say bye to the friends from Cooperativa Cellatica. Thank you for sharing with us these two nice examples of Franciacorta. I'd like to thank you all and great bye-bye to Miami, which is a town I love. I hope I can meet you in Miami. And I agree, and I would like also to thank Confagricoltura for giving us this opportunity to find new opportunities outside Italy. Absolutely, thank you. And of course, you can ask for their contacts through the association, through Confagricoltura, and we are ready to put you in contact. So thank you very much. Bye. Bye-bye. And also, Gilberto, you've seen your wine, your Chardonnay is great. And also a big thank you to Giulia that shared with us a totally different Verdicchio, a sparkling Verdicchio, and for the time that they devoted to us. And a big thank you to our friends in Miami and to you all. Thank you.